international visits to its theme parks in California and Florida would suffer in the current quarter. Economists are praising President Trump's latest pick to head the agency that tracks inflation and unemployment. Brett Matsumoto is described as a technocratic data nerd. Trump fired the agency's previous leader last August after a disappointing jobs report. An earlier nominee withdrew after criticism that he was overly partisan and lacked experience. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
A series of small earthquakes rattled the San Francisco Bay Area today. The most powerful was a magnitude 4.2. The area's had a lot of seismic activity recently. This is NPR News from Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perugia. An altercation between two students at Grand Oaks High School in Conroe resulted in one of the students being stabbed. Montgomery County sheriffs responded, and a suspect is now in custody. The victim was taken to a hospital. More details as they become available. Former Harris County Attorney Christian Menifee won a lopsided victory over his fellow Democrat, former Houston City Council member Amanda Edwards, in Saturday's special election runoff to fill out the term of the late Congressman Sylvester Turner. Edwards has not responded to a request for comment from Houston Public Media. Menifee will now face 9th District incumbent Congressman Al Green in the March Democratic primary. A long-standing effort to crack down on apartment complexes with chronic health and safety problems continues to face delays at Houston City Hall. Mayor John Whitmire said last year he hoped to move an apartment inspection ordinance forward in January, but progress remains stalled. City officials tell Houston Public Media the rules will be discussed in a series of upcoming community meetings. Julia Orduña is a tenant advocacy group, is with tenant advocacy group Texas Housers, one of the leading proponents of the measure.
I do hope that this is thought of as important and moved with that urgency as well, because the longer that we sit on this, the longer that tenants are living in that precarity.
Those community meetings have yet to be scheduled. In sports, the Rockets beat the Dallas Mavericks Saturday, 111-107. The Rockets are on their way home. Tomorrow night, they face the Boston Celtics. Tip-off at 7 p.m. Checking your weather, partly sunny and windy today with a high of 70. Mostly cloudy and windy tonight. We'll see a low around 57. Showers and thunderstorms likely on Tuesday, a high near 72 degrees. Right now, mostly sunny, 59 degrees on the UH campus. I'm Tom Perugia, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Auto Insurance protects the vehicles that work to keep small businesses moving forward, including protection while running errands and other tasks at progressivecommercial.com.
By emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello. We are America's long nightmare is over. I got my haircut.
Thanks for tuning in to Hello Houston. Today is February 2nd. We are moving right along into 2026.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog. So,
Did you see your shadow this morning, Frank? Groundhog Day between 6 weeks. Now, Punxsutawney Phil's only about 30%. Yeah, I'm seeing that today. There are other animals that predict the weather that have a better rate of prediction. There's a nutria in Louisiana. I think we have a longhorn somewhere in Texas. Right. And of course, Kevin, my husband's birthday, Kevin Gilligan, his birthday is today. He saw his shadow, so 6 more weeks of shopping. That's how it works. Is that how it works? But what can you tell us actually about the weather? Or is this the most accurate report? We're just out there. Look at that shot. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see the city. It's just brilliant. It's nice and cool. It's going to continue to warm up a little bit the next couple of days. And then another front tomorrow. Kibosh that will get us back down to cool. And then we want to cool weekend. So tomorrow's really the only chance of rain this week. But it's 70% in the afternoon and the evening as this front comes through. So that will
pictures, and I hate all of you for all of the memes that you have already taken advantage of with my mustache. I think I look amazing, quite simply. Grandmas of America, you're on notice. I couldn't have looked any better, I didn't think, but then I added a mustache. We'll have some fun with that. Open phone lines, 800-282-2882. We got a bunch of guests. At the bottom of this hour, Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri is going to join us. Then
that's our name.
They want all the hype, clicks, they want all of
And they'll see attention. And you know, every now and then, even what blind pig finds an apple.
Stop the clock is right twice a day.
Twice a day.
That's my favorite one. We were sitting here looking at it. If you us on YouTube, you can see our sky shot of downtown. And Frank and I were commenting on it. Almost looks too perfect. It almost looks like it's a drawing or color in hands. But it's what you're seeing out there.
beautiful.
Our city has gone AI.
that couldn't hurt. And also, with the beginning of February, it is Black History Month has begun. We're going to be taking a look at that and talking about Black History Month and a charity that's really helping families in our community. And it's also Heart Health Month. So we're going to be talking about having a healthy heart.
Yeah, there's a lot of galas for that, isn't there? Yeah, heart health galas. Women's heart health especially
Yes,
tends to get ignored.
right. You know what wasn't ignored last night at the Grammys?
What?
The Houston Grand Opera.
HGO won a Grammy.
Yep.
It's their third one.
It's their
So
third one.
congratulations to them.
Yep, it was the recording of Intelligence that won. Congratulations to the Houston Grand Opera.
Debut, and it was recorded live at Worthing. Yeah, which I thought was really kind of cool.
That's super.
You know, people that I know that love
Yeah.
Yes.
and certainly ballet. They don't just like ballet; they love ballet. So there are certain, just passions that people have for these kind of arts.
And we're a little spoiled here in Houston. A lot
We
of
have
people
them all.
don't realize in a lot of major cities, they have one or two. We've got, with the theater district downtown, we've got 7 strong art presenters that present in the different areas of the arts.
And every major sports,
Yeah.
and a place to play those sports fields, and NRG. And
Is that maybe why Houston is so popular? We're always hearing people want to come here because we've got everything.
We do have everything, and the restaurants are just terrific. We're going to Kieran's tonight, Indian restaurant in Richmond, for Kevin's birthday.
Oh,
Yes.
well, happy birthday to Kevin for this.
You know what else we have?
What else?
Houston representation for the 18th Congressional
I think
District.
Celeste wants to get to the headlines. What do you?
Well, and I want to. Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead. No, but I have a question for you. But go ahead. Let's see.
Okay, Celeste, take us into the headline.
Voters in Texas' 18th Congressional District have chosen a new representative ending nearly a year without representation in Washington. Former Harris County Attorney Christian Menifee won Saturday's special election runoff, defeating former Houston City Council member Amanda Edwards. Menifee captured about 68% of the vote, while Edwards received just over 31%, and that was according to the Harris County Clerk's Office. Menifee expanded his advantage after early voting. More than 23,000 ballots cast overall, including about 10,000 on election day. Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. Did you vote in the special election? And if so, what motivated your choice? You can text or call 713-440-8870.
Okay, here I'm going to rain on people's parades for a minute here. The Texas Congressional District 18, which had that special election, where the total votes cast were about just under 24,000 votes total, has a population of 773,000 people. Come on, folks. Vote!
Well, how many are over the age of 18?
Yeah,
There's
all
that.
right. You're right, but,
Maybe 500,000
okay,
votes.
yeah. Any way you look at it, it's a pretty low turnout. Only about, I'm seeing one report here from HPM, if I'm reading this correctly. No, it was just on the first day, less than 1% voted. But,
Let me ask you this about the voting trend.
Okay.
So this was about 70-30 for Chris.
Yes.
Doesn't that give you some idea that those who voted are really 19. But there's not a 52-48 split. There's a huge number of people for one philosophy over another. Whatever that is. I don't know what, I didn't see any polls that said I voted for him because of this or because of that. But when you see a 70-30 like that, it's like, wow, people got behind this guy. And we saw what happened in North Texas, in the Fort Worth district, which has been Republican since 1970.
Very
now
interesting.
It's turned over by a Democrat. Also, low turnout.
Right. I think
solidified turnout of the voting that was there was very solid.
I would almost say, and what you're saying is valid, that, there's the support behind it, there's a united support behind a candidate. But the other way to look at it is, with such a small turnout, it was about the candidate getting their bases to show up. And so you only had to get under 14,000 people had to vote in the early vote, and only 10,000 in actual vote on election day. So that's a tiny percentage of people. So it really, I think, reflects more how organized was your ground crew, how well were you reaching, how well were you getting your votes to the polls, what kind of things did you do in the community to shuttle people to the polls and back and forth. Now, if you're talking about a vote total of 250,000 and the majority were behind one candidate, I would fall more into your camp. But I look at it as name recognition, who got people out, how did they get them out? And that's what's becoming so important in the way we vote, is getting your voters to the poll. We've talked about this on the show before, where there's some conventional wisdom that says there are more Democratic voters in the state, more Democratic leaning eligible voters in the state of Texas that are Democrat than Republican, but more Republicans show up to vote. And that's why we see what we see.
Do you think that some of the psychology behind Saturday's vote was, you know what, whoever gets this is only there for a year because March 3rd is going to re-elect yet another person to that position? And people said, you know what, whatever, they're only there for 9-10 months really, and that's it. So this isn't a real election.
I don't think most people really were thinking about that. Most people aren't aware of it. We were going to talk about this. Today is the last day to register to vote in the March primaries. And those are important. They're not just for the new Texas 18th, but they're also for governor and lieutenant governor and all that.
But my understanding is Amanda Edwards will be on that ballot.
Both of them are going to run
again. And Al Green.
And Al Green.
So it's going to be, I think, a much more interesting.
But to your earlier question, what I would think is that people were thinking they both have very similar stances on the issues. They both represent us well, and so whoever got, I was talking to somebody who said, I'm not voting because it doesn't matter. Either one that gets in is going to do the same thing. Yeah. And I think that plays into a little voter apathy, but I think, and also, we're running two Democrats against each other in a runoff. So either way, a Democrat wins. If you're a Democrat, you feel like you're safe. When you have someone from each party, then that comes more into play. What were you going to say, Celeste?
And when we look at Christian Menefee and Amanda Edwards and we look at their policy, they were pretty in line on a lot of things. There wasn't one that, or they didn't seem very polar opposite, like said, both Democrats. They had both pretty in line with the same, looking at how they would essentially represent District 18. I would say one of the unifying factors for Christian Menefee was that he has been continuously still in public service as the district attorney, county. And I think that was, a factor when people were going simple name recognition within the area.
That comes down to money. I saw Menefee's ads on TV a lot. And he was doing the father thing, and he was doing the fighter thing. I didn't see a lot of the ads.
Yeah, and I don't think she had the money for it.
So that, and so the money may be a real, I always see it, may be a huge factor.
It's going to be really interesting. If you have not yet registered to vote in the upcoming primary, and this is an important primary, you're going to be deciding also between James Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett on the Democratic side, and then Cornyn or Paxton or Hunt on the Republican side for our U.S. Senator for the state. That's happening in the March primary between those two camps. So you want to make sure you're registered to vote. So check online at harrisvotes.com, see what you need to do if you're not registered, and make sure you get out there and vote. Very
just a matter of housekeeping. There were no irregularities or problems with this voting on Saturday.
Yeah. And again, 713-440-8870. You can call or text 713-440-8870.
Did you vote? Did you not vote? We're curious curious to
If
find
you
out.
didn't, don't call because Ernie will chastise you.
I'm a little voting like a hall monitor here. And the shepherd gets out there and votes.
We noticed.
And just and to put a button on all of that, the whole idea that, you know, for me, I don't even care what side you're voting on. The fact is, if you have an opinion and you are educated about issues and you want to see your community run well, get out there and vote. This is an opportunity we are given in this country to control the future of how things go. If you're not voting, that's on you. Anyway.
713-440-8870. You're listening to Hello Houston.
That haircut made him so smart.
Well, because my head can float in the clouds now. Okay, another story. Independent journalist Don Lemon and Georgia Fort say they will keep reporting after being released from federal custody following their arrests after covering an anti-immigration enforcement protest at a St. Paul, Minnesota church. A federal grand jury indicted both on civil-related charges. Lemon, of course, as you know, is a former CNN anchor, and Fort, a Minneapolis area reporter, insists that they were documenting the events as journalists, not participating in the protest. Lemon's attorney called the action an unprecedented attack on the First Amendment, but has vowed to fight the charges in court. So what are your thoughts? Was Lemon reporting or protesting? Was he simply doing his job as a journalist or working to create a social media moment? What do you think? 713-440-8870. Thoughts?
Well, in the past, part of the ICE.
That's the allegation that was made by the protesters.
So they decided to protest at his church.
Yeah.
And that's a legitimate, that is a man by its dog story. That's a whole different game there, that this pastor is with ICE, and now these people are showing up to protest, I guess, his membership or his
Congregation
or whatever.
Well, the thing, though, keep in mind is that they went inside the church. That's where the big problem is.
The churches want you inside. That's all you ever hear.
They
Come
want you
join our
okay,
church.
Celeste, what are your thoughts?
When government attack journalists, the cost is paid by the public. At the end of the day, when governments attack journalists, the cost is paid by the public. At first glance, I thought, you know, this is a real, attack on the First Amendment and the ability for journalists to be able to work. I will also say, on the other line, I'm not sure that going into a church is the best way to get your message across. Some would say, well, it is absolutely the best way. We're all talking about it. There's a lot of question around it. However, looking at Don Lemon, I'm thinking to myself, that felt a little performative. And I think that there are ways to have impact without, causing so much of a disruption of asking, how was this handled? Was it handled? Without there's so much around it. And it just felt very performative. I do have a real issue with people protesting within churches. That is a sacred space. I don't think, regardless of the pastor was a part of ICE. Let me tell you, there are a lot of pastors that stand at the pulpit that people should rush in and question what they're doing, right? Mm-hmm. However, I don't think, as a regular churchgoer, it felt to me disruptive. I did not think that was the right way. I think Don Lemon should know better. There are ways to get your message across in a much more productive way. It's unfortunate. You can seek truth. You can seek truth and help the public understand your message without going inside a church.
I don't know exactly the temperature, but we were having another spell of 27 degrees Sunday morning. I imagine that church outside was pretty dangerous.
Yeah, but the weather doesn't dictate what's legal and what's not.
It's not was it illegal for the protesters to show up in the church?
And inside the church is where the question is. If they're going in to protest across the line, nobody is saying they didn't have, well, maybe some are, but legally nobody's saying they didn't have the right to protest outside.
Isn't that where the story was? The story is where the protesters were. Why are you here? What are you doing?
Right.
Well, how are you going to have that story outside the church?
Right, but the bigger question is, where did Don Lemon fit into the story? Was he covering it, or was he part of it? Did he?
That's the
Because
big
there's
question.
a video out there of him there giving coffee to the protesters and talking with them and friendlying with them and talking about what they're going to do. So the question comes: was he in the planning of it to create? And that's why I even changed our question. Was he trying to create a social media moment? Was he creating something so that he could then cover it and be there on the scene because he was
That's
working?
a whole different
And
exercise.
that's right. And that's the issue that I have here is that he is crossing lines, making it difficult for all journalists. And that's my issue. The free press is a safeguard against authoritarianism. Flat out, when journalists are targeted, it's often a warning sign that the democratic norms are under threat. And that's so there's this kind of blanketed issue that we're seeing across right now within our democracy of questioning where journalists are doing their job, when it's becoming too much of their own platform. So we're questioning journalism and democracy in general. And then to have Don Lemon go inside a church does not do anybody anything.
Wait a minute, it wasn't services. This protest was happening.
This protest was happening.
So the church then sort of becomes a building, unless you would argue that.
No, there was. They were having a
There's
Sunday
service.
morning service.
But then the protests take over.
They came in and disrupted the
Right, and so he, as a journalist, said, "What's going on?"
Right.
So why was he and Georgia the only ones that were arrested? Why weren't protesters? Why weren't protesters arrested? They're the ones that were really making the story.
You're right, and I'm not sure. I assume that there were protesters arrested too. These two are getting attention because they were journalists. For me, the question is, where is now? Once the protest begins in the church, once the action has begun in the church, for Don Lemon to have been in there to cover it, I think is fine. I think once the event has happened, for me, my question lies: how involved was he in the event happening?
Well, you'll never know the answer.
Right.
to that.
And,
Covering a protest inside a church, I don't know, come on.
if somebody is shot inside of a church and it's a story and the media comes in and covers that, they're coming into the church once the event has happened. That's where I'm falling on it. I think that he has a right to cover it. I think he has a right to report on it. I think if the timeline I'm seeing is right, the disruption had happened before he started interviewing people. So if that's the case, I have less concern. I'm more concerned whether or not he was instigating.
713-440-8870. Let's go to James from the Woodlands. James, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello and happy Monday. I have about as much information as you do about what happened, which is not complete. You know, I've tried to gather as much as I could. However, I am totally for freedom of the press, and if a protest happens in a church, which it doesn't happen all the time, this is not the frequency, that I believe that is appropriate, and if he was a journalist, he has a right to cover that. Now, why he was arrested and the other people weren't, I'm not sure. Of course, I feel like police have a right to arrest people, but we have a right to freedom of assembly and protest against things that we have grievances against. And so this is our freedom, like it or not. I'll say one last thing. Jesus would be arrested for going into churches and turning over tables and calling people out. He did that during his ministry. So I feel as our right as Americans to do this.
Thank you very much for that. I also want to clarify, too, from my point of view, is that I also think Don Lemon has a right to be involved in protests if he wants to, but he has to know which hat he's wearing. We all have a right to protest what we don't believe in, and even if his job is as a journalist, well, then are you there as a protester with this group of people, standing up against something you don't believe in, or are you there to cover it as a journalist?
I think he has a right.
Is that if you're a journalist and you go to a protest, You're taking a side, so you can no longer report.
Why are you taking a side?
If you're
Fill me in on that.
going to a protest, if
well-
you're marching in a protest for something with people,
And you have a camera and a microphone, and you're walking with them, asking them questions.
that's
doesn't make
covering it. That's
what he
covering
was
it.
doing. From what I saw, that's exactly what Don Lemon was doing.
Yeah.
He had a camera, and he had a little microphone, wasn't a big one, and he was talking to people.
And I did see where he was talking to the minister of the church.
Pastor
and he
asked him
said,
to leave.
and he said to him, I'm Don Lemon, I'm here covering it, I'm not part of the protest, I'm a journalist here. And he was establishing that when he did his interviews. What's the
He
lesson?
was going where the story was.
Yeah.
And so he assume he did not tell those people to go inside the church. They did that because it was cold outside and they wanted to go in the church to protest. And so he followed them in. Now, to your point, maybe he organized the whole thing. And
I don't think he organized the whole thing, but what he knew. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to read something we have that just came in. It said rap. We've gone too long in this segment.
Coming up on Hello Houston, Pastor DZ Cofield, who will join us to discuss Black History Month and tell us about his charity Hope for Families. This is News 88.7.
I'm Jesse Thorne. You want some real, insightful conversations about where art comes from? Well, Bullseye has you covered. As long as you don't mind a little bit of ridiculousness.
Y'all was like really judging me though.
They sniffed it out. They sniffed out that I was weird.
I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna sit, just like in the movies.
Listen, learn, laugh. Bullseye from Maximum Fun and NPR.
Bullseye, Thursdays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7.
A 2025 report found that 50 million Americans now have limited or no access to reliable local news. More than half of the country's major daily newspapers are now owned by just a handful of parent companies. What does it all mean for how news gets made and who gets heard? And who's trying to chart a new path forward? Our series If You Can Keep It returns next time on 1A.
Listen to 1A is coming up today at 2 o'clock.
I'm Jeremy Hobson. Next time on The middle class has long been seen as the backbone of the American economy, a marker of stability, opportunity, and upward mobility. But rising costs, stagnant wages, and economic uncertainty have many Americans asking, what is the middle class in 2026, and is it still achievable? That's our question next time on The Middle.
Thursday night at 8 p.m. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro. Introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system. Support comes from Beck's Wines, Spirits, and Finer Foods. February is Wine Month, providing a range of wine for gatherings and celebrations all month long. More at specs.com. Specs, the fun starts here.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
As we mark the start of Black History Month, we're joined by Pastor DZ Cofield. He's a senior pastor of the historic Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church right here in Houston. Pastor Cofield is going to share his thoughts on the meaning of this month and talk about Hope for Families, a nonprofit focused on supporting and strengthening urban communities. Pastor Cofield, welcome to Hello Houston.
And thank you. Honored to be here with you.
We were just talking about it, Pastor.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on what happened there?
Yeah, I think the line gets really blurred, especially when you talk about a pastor who's functioning in a bivocational way. As the leader of ICE and the leader of the congregation, those two things kind of got, convoluted in there. And so here come people, they're not protesting his messages, they're not protesting his sermons, they're not protesting his leadership, they're protesting his secular job. And that becomes a little dicey to me.
I kind of agree with him. I would protest that also.
Yeah, well, and if you want to protest, I don't know if I'm comfortable with you protesting me in my pastoral position for something that I do in another position. Why wouldn't you go to the ICE office and protest? Why would you come and disrupt my service and our faith community.
Do you have a concern with the crossing of the line of either protesting outside the church or protesting inside the church?
No, I mean, protesting is a part of, our country. It's a part of our history. I just think, it was a very extreme move. They knew it would get attention. It was a sensational act. And so, it got the coverage that they wanted to get.
Well, when I heard that the pastor was part of ICE, I really kind of did a triple take. I mean, that just doesn't seem like it's the kind of hobby you would have on the side.
Yeah. I was shocked at that as well. I was kind of like, man, because to me, the way ICE is acting is really contrary to what we believe in principles of Scripture, principles of Islam, Judaism. I mean, just basic tenets around how we treat strangers and how we should exercise a spirit of hospitality.
Do unto others.
Yeah. So I was really surprised at that as well. I don't know how he, justifies or rationalizes that. That's his own individual.
Pastor Brookfield, I think that you said essentially like what I was trying to explain, that there's so many things that were happening at the exact same time. It feels like during this time we are having to hold space for many different parts of our lives that don't necessarily seem to be coinciding.
Yeah. There definitely isn't a congruity there, between those things. And when you have things that are juxtaposed to each other, that are kind of the opposite ends of the spectrum, at least in people's mind, it's kind of like, wow, how do we balance that? How do we blend that?
When you look at the world today and what we're going through, in some ways, does it change the focus of how you even address something like Black history? Are there new and different lessons to be gleaned from it when we look at our current situation?
Yeah, I think the challenge for me as an African American is recognizing that there are those in our state and those in our country who want to erase the past and want to erase misdeeds of the past, and in erasing
what? That little groundhog had the audacity, the nerve to say 6 more weeks of winter. Mind you, Punxsutawney Phil has no formal training, no meteorology expertise, never interned anywhere. He is no Frank Billingsley, I can tell you that.
With a hot box from Dave's Hot Chicken.
From the law office of Domingo Garcia, Tejano Tough Traffic Center.
Got a wreck on the West Loop 610 going up through Uptown at 69. We'll take 2 right lanes. It sure does get skinny there with the walls. And we're backed up from Bel Air, an extra 12 minutes on the northbound. On 610 northwestbound at Jensen. This one's not really causing a big scooch. It's a wreck. Moved over to the side. If you're playing the home game with me, that's camera 606. Just heads up, coming over from 69. I'm Skymike.
This report is sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Check engine or ABS light on? Take the guesswork out of your warning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Friday, kick off the Winter Olympics in style. Opening ceremony from Italy.
Team USA, we are ready to roll.
Friday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
We all do it. You keep singing the wrong lyrics to a song, even though you know they're wrong. You stick with them.
So, what you're saying is, it's I love you, babe, and not lasagna, babe?
Reminds me of how people might be sticking with the wrong insurers. But switching to Geico can get you the right coverage for the right price.
Oh, man. This whole time, I thought Fire in My Heart was referencing the heartburn. The lasagna.
I hate to break it to you, man.
It feels good to get it right. It feels good to Geico.
When you've been hurt in a car accident, you need someone you can trust. At Simmons & Fletcher, we're your neighbors and your lawyers. Call us or visit us at simmonsandfletcher.com. Simmons & Fletcher, Christian trial lawyers, Houston, Texas.
UCLA 398 Say, Mr. Morrow.
Oh, hey, fella.
Is there anything better than fast?
Good question. What about fast?
Did you say
Fast, sure did. See, if somebody doesn't have heat and they need a repair, fast isn't fast enough.
so amazing, Morrow? Is there?
Fast.
Amazing.
We don't waste time. Our day begins with getting all the tools and equipment loaded up in our trucks.
Ready for takeoff. Soon.
You got it, fella. Having a fully stocked truck means we're ready to tackle almost any furnace trouble. Right now, on the spot.
And that minimizes extra trips.
More than that, it minimizes the time you're stuck in a cold house.
I like fast.
Just fast?
I mean, fast.
Oh, you got it.
It's amazing.
Amazing Morrow doesn't want you cold, neither do you. We get to you fast, but we also take the necessary time to get it fixed right.
You can always count on you, Mr. Morrow.
And you can always schedule at
AmazingMorrow.com.
From the sunny 99.1 studio, driven by Fred Hess Toyota Country, the highest Google-rated Toyota dealer in Houston.
Your nursing journey begins where care runs deep at Chamberlain University's Houston campus. At Chamberlain University, hybrid learning means hands-on experience, guided by faculty who believe in your potential and supported by a community that helps you succeed. Earn your Bachelor of Nursing degree in as few as 3 years with the nation's #1 largest nursing school. Chamberlain University. Belong to something greater. Apply today at chamberlain.edu. That's chamberlain.edu.
Your projects begin here. The Houston Home and Garden Show, February 6th through 8th at NRG Park, presented by Certa Pro Painters. Great deals, new ideas, and practical advice. Save 20% off tickets at HoustonHomeandGardenShow.com.
This year's tax changes. Better not get caught snoozing. This one deduction. Use thousands, not amusing.
Big tax changes can mean bigger refunds at Jackson Hewitt, and right now get $100 just to try us.